The Trek Geeks Network is proud to have Fansets as its presenting sponsor. Fansets is the home for amazing pin collectibles with over 400 officially licensed Star Trek pins and new releases every month. Stay tuned for a special discount code worth 10% off your next order at fansets.com. Fansets, our pins have character. Definitely a big shift in tone this episode as the crew comes face to face, this time with the terrifying enemy of this first season of Strange New Worlds, the Gorn. But the enemy might be closer than it appears when survivors of a marooned ship attacked by the Gorn are rescued by the Enterprise crew. Between a crew member with past trauma of a Gorn encounter and Vulcan releasing repressed rage at a crewman's death, will the away team have what it takes to survive? It feels like an episode of Aliens or Predators or both today on Strange New Worlds, and I admit this episode took me by surprise, especially with a Tasha Yar-esque moment toward the end. Was this a fun sci-fi horror, or did this fall too far outside of the set expectations from what we've come to know for Strange New Worlds this season? Let's find out. It's episode 9 of Strange New Worlds, All Those That Wander, written by Davy Perez and directed by Christopher J. Byrne.
If you'd like to follow the show on social media, you can find us on Twitter at Discovering Trek, or on Facebook, you can join the conversation on Camp Kittimer. Answer a few simple questions, and our admins, Haley, Jackie, and Fark, will let you in. A reminder that this episode of Discovering Trek provides spoilers for the Strange New Worlds episodes, All Those Who Wander. If you have not watched yet, head over to Paramount Plus and watch the episode and head back. Failure to do so leaves you open to spoilers.
I'm Matthew Simone, and I'm joined today by Yvette Blackmon-Tom, and of course, my co-host over on With the First Link, Ruthie Kauper-Samoshi.
Yay!
Yay! I found this episode a little jarring. I'm sensitive to gore and such, and I had been prepared that was a thing in Picard. We've seen some stuff like that. Discovery, we've seen some things like that. We hadn't really seen anything like that quite yet in Strange New World. I guess I should have seen it foreshadowed because there was some kind of like blood and stuff sprayed across the ground on episode 4 when we were first introduced to the Gorn. Ruthie, you're joining in, so I'm gonna start with you this time. How did you feel about this one? You crammed Strange New Worlds in like just the last couple days.
I did.
Yeah, to prep for being here today. So you all this is probably fresh in your brain. Did you find this a little bit kind of jarring?
It felt creepy for sure. The stakes felt real, which I liked. That was everything felt like earned. It wasn't sort of, you two talked about some maybe like not real heartstrings in a couple episodes ago. So this everything felt very earned. It actually reminded me, you said Alien and Predator, but I was thinking Jurassic Park with the raptors. At some point, which I haven't seen that movie in forever, but that's the feeling that I got. Yeah, it was a thumbs up for me. I liked the stakes. I felt like we got some growth for quite a few characters, and it felt like a good, I don't know, there's something Star Trek does, not always, but sometimes the penultimate episode is like they reach a quite a peak there, and then they kind of let you breathe in the season finale. So I hope that's what's happening here. I hope we can breathe a little more in the next one.
I want to get back to what you said there about growth in a second, but I'm planting that seed in my brain, so I want to talk about that more.
I thought it was, so, every week, well, not every week, but I've been saying this is my favorite episode.
Yeah.
This is my favorite episode.
Oh, really? Okay.
Not that I like gore and horror, but I don't think this was really gore and horror. I think it was a good horror episode. A lot of, like Ruthie said, everything in there was earned. It wasn't for shock and horror. It was a storyline, and that is what happened. And I felt all of it. It reminded me of The Thing.
Oh, it's been a long time since I've seen
The Thing. That's what it reminded me of, the frozen planet and everything. And of course it reminded me of Aliens because they kept popping out of the poor guy. But I definitely, so far this is well, I've seen them all, but this is my favorite. This is my favorite episode. It just had everything. I love an episode that has every character in it. Every character has something going on. It did a lot for me.
Okay.
Not crazy about horror, but I thought it was really good.
Wow. Okay. I would admit when I first got out of this, I was like, I hate this episode. Like, I don't like it. I don't like that we went this direction. I didn't like, the ripping out of people and everything else. And of course, we have a big loss of a crew member in this episode.
Yeah.
I was angry about that too,
Mhm.
because I feel like we had just kind of started getting into Hemmer, and then all of a sudden he's out at the end of this episode. I was like, what? And I was upset about that. I thought something was going to happen right last minute. We're going to like save him and we're good. But
Oh, yeah.
I guess like we know at some point we have to start making room for these other original series characters, and we know that Scotty has to be engineer at some point. So I was like, I guess we can't have Hemmer forever. But Death, though, so I'm rethinking it now that you both have said this. I was like, maybe I've misjudged this episode too much, and maybe it was more like the shock initially of it. Like Ruthie, I was thinking, well, you mentioned character growth, but I thought I didn't. Maybe I missed some of that in here. So tell me about the character growth that you saw in this episode.
I think we nicely saw Pike really like leaning into his dad role on the ship. He's not different, but he's just kind of really owning that. And some of it felt very intentional with the like, oh, we're going to pile the kids in the station wagon and take a road trip. But the moment that really got me was when he put the apron on Spock and said, you take over the dishes. The warmth there's something about also like a Starfleet officer in an apron that I find incredibly sweet. Like with Riker and Picard when he's making the pizza and then Pike and Spock both in their aprons over their uniforms. Like I think we see some of that with Cisco too in Deep Space Nine.
Yep.
And I find that really, really sweet. Spock like feeling his feelings. I think in my experience, that's one of the hardest things to do, is really feeling those feelings. And I know obviously it's different for a Vulcan, but just kind of seeing him go through that, seeing the relationship between Hemmer and Uhura carry on, and the two of them. I mean, I feel like he grew from what we saw at the beginning of this series. He came across as much more cold, and part of that was him kind of yanking her chain a little bit. But I think, that it felt like these characters their relationships are just becoming more real. We really see the love that they have for each other. The scene where the senior staff are all talking around the kitchen together. There was just a lot of love and a lot of care there. Also with the doctor and like dealing with his trauma.
La'an.
Yeah.
I mean, she really grew into her character. Unfortunately, we're losing her too. There was a lot. The reason why I think this was a great episode, I agree with you, Matthew, that it jarred me.
Yeah.
Because like I said, I watched it and that was it. I turned off the TV. I was done. I had to get through that. That was a lot. It was a lot going on in that episode. And then because we're all thinking, oh, he's going to go outside. He's Andorian. It's going to be fine. No. Not at all. So I had to reset. I watched it again. And then that part that Ruthie was talking about with them at the kitchen table, that was a critical part of this whole episode. It set it up. This was going to be something at the end that was going to be felt by everyone, because they're a crew now. They're a family now.
Yeah.
Just anytime you're eating with your crew, especially with the captain, you actually becoming, a crew, because that's what Cisco did. He invited everybody over to eat. Even Worf came. He wasn't happy about it, but he was there too. But I'm just saying, and I love the setup, how they talked, how the food was so good that even La'an was like, hey, this is good. Pass that cheese, and then here comes I didn't even know the doctor was there. All of a sudden he's talking about waffles.
Try the waffles.
Yeah. I think that part really set it up to make this a really good episode.
Yeah, and you have that moment with Uhura there too, where it seems more that she's engaged with the crew and wanting to integrate in the crew, and it seems like she's made more of a decision to maybe stay. So yeah, there may be more character growth going on behind the scenes there than I in my jarred moment I was giving credit for it. So thank you.
Yeah, it was jarring. Yeah.
I noticed there was also this moment with La'an, and I wondered when she gets this moment where she's really upset with the young girl who survives in the ship. And she's like, why didn't you tell us? Why didn't you tell us that you thought, or that this person who's protecting you, this other alien that's with them is infected? And I wondered at that point, like, are we looking at her trauma? Is she yelling at herself?
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was a really nice moment between La'an and Mbenga. He almost implies that she's projecting, but then he says, no, I'm actually the one who's projecting. But then he also says she needs support, and you are kind of the best person to give her that support. In saying that, he doesn't say it outright, but he basically tells La'an that she isn't broken, that she is capable of healing, because he says she's capable of healing just like you. I almost thought at one point he was going to say she's capable of healing in a way that you weren't because you haven't dealt with it yet, but he didn't go that way.
Nope.
No.
He said you can help her become like you.
Yeah.
And I think that was important for La'an to hear.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
He actually uses his daughter's name there.
The little girl.
It was a little girl that he
Mhm.
refers to as he realizes that he might be projecting his own stuff going on there. And even in that moment of turmoil is able to reverse it, and you have that kind of self-reflective moment. A moment here where Spock kind of like uncorks a bottle here and decides to dip into the rage. What do you think is going to happen with Spock now as a result of this? He says he might have released something he can't put back.
I'm not second guessing these writers, because anything could happen next season. I'm thinking that it's going to be ramped up. I think we're going to see a lot more of Spock's emotions, because we still have 7 years until we get to him and Kirk. So I think we're going to get a lot of that. We're going to get a lot of almost with him and Christine, because there's a lot of tension going on there.
I wondered if that might be the catalyst, is how that happens. Maybe more emotions near the surface, and maybe that's what allows this relationship with Christine to happen. Ruthie, what do you think?
This might be like me projecting now, but sometimes I think that when people sometimes don't really access their emotions that often, their reaction to any emotion can be anger.
Oh, wow.
And I feel like Spock is dealing with that he felt anger, and then later he's feeling grief and sadness, but his reaction to it is more anger.
Well,
wow.
We dealt with him before with this. I mean, on Discovery, he likes anger. He really felt it on the Discovery. He was kind of marinating in that anger there. So this is not new for him. This is like pattern and practice with him. I haven't seen him with anything else but anger when he dives into it. But yeah, he did it before, so he's good at it.
I was going to say one thing I didn't like. It was just a moment, and it was at the end when he grabs Chapel's wrist.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that's such a common thing that you see, where like this man gets angry and he accidentally like grabs a woman's wrist too hard, or like accidentally like hits someone. Or, I mean, I'm glad they didn't take it farther than that, but I thought this is a better show than that. That is, to me, that's not earned. That's a little cheaper. I was a little disappointed with it. I can live with it. It's over. It happened. It's done. But I think that Strange New Worlds is better than that.
Another friend of mine and I, we've done often, we'll do like TNG, Voyager, and Deep Space Nine watch throughs. And one of the things we picked up on is that it's pretty common for women in the show to be grabbed, to be held, to talk to, like grab the shoulders, grab the arms. And one of the things we really love about that is the one person to respond back to it directly is Kira.
Oh, yes.
And the one time Kira gets grabbed by Damar, and then she beats the crap out of him and knocks him like unconscious. And I was like, yeah, go you.
As she should. We just don't, that's exactly what we expect from Kira. It's so funny when you said that, I didn't even think of it, but I do remember that instant like perfectly. And I don't know why I didn't pick up on it until you said it. And I was like, And I actually like vividly remember him doing that. And I did get kind of a reaction, but I kind of just let it go. But until you said it, I was like, yeah, I do remember that. Yeah. So yeah. Thanks for bringing that up again. I'm glad. We still have certain people writing these shows,
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
So it'll get better, hopefully. We got to keep talking about it. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Just keep talking about bringing it up.
And finally, I was going to ask how people, I know we've touched on a little bit. I'm really upset that Hemmer died. It made me angry. I think that's one of the things that clouded this episode for me, as I was so angry that because I didn't think that was going to happen. Yvette, you kind of touched on this. They mentioned the cold, and maybe the Gorn aren't good with the cold, so maybe he can go outside, and it's his biology that allows him to like survive it, or like purge the eggs or whatever. It's also a very strange reproduction cycle for the Gorn. They can just spit
Yeah,
young
that's kind of creepy too, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, wait, what happened?
yeah. Yeah, it's like I just impregnate you by spitting at you from a
Yes.
distance. I was
Yeah.
like, oh God.
But that to me that reminded me of like the Tribbles. Because you know when they showed they're like, and McCoy's like, the best I can tell is that they're born pregnant.
Oh,
and I was like,
Lord.
that's these what they're born, and then they immediately start like
Yeah,
spreading their eggs.
spreading their eggs or semen or eggs. I don't know
Whatever
what
it
was
is,
going
it's
on
not.
there.
Yeah,
Wow.
I don't like
Yeesh.
it. I don't like it.
Yeah, they're even. Can you? Oof, wow.
I'm glad we had this conversation because I was thinking about the episode afterward today on the way home, and I knew we'd have to talk about it. And I was like, okay, is this anything worse than we've seen in TNG with Best of Both Worlds? Like we have an enemy that can at a distance or can reach up and like basically impregnate you with nanoprobes. It can make you one of them, or it uses you to your purposes. It takes away your individuality. In a way, they're trying to create like a new rival to something that's scary in that universe. And you know, in this through this Gorn reboot. So then I wondered if maybe I was allowed to be as upset about it.
You should be upset about it. It was upsetting.
It was upsetting, yeah. But I think it's okay to be upset with it in the sense that you have a loss of a character. But in a way, I felt kind of betrayed by the show because I don't think I expected a main character to be gone within the first season. One thing I will say though, I kind of poked at this at the beginning by saying it was Tashiar-esque. But I think one thing about this is they let Hammer go out on his own terms, and which is a lot different than Tasha. And I did appreciate that about his death.
It was a good out. I mean, he was noble. He was Starfleet. He went out with a blaze of glory, and he saved Uhura. I mean, because it was gonna be her, and he jumped in front of her.
Yeah.
They don't usually go out so well in Star Trek.
That is true.
You know,
it was a beautiful scene too. Just the shot of him falling from the ship was just. I actually had to go back and look at it because I couldn't tell like exactly where they were positioned in the ship, you know, from the outside. And so I was like, wait, is that, oh, he's falling. That's
right. I went back also. I was like, wait, is he dying? Is this, is he going to die?
I thought he was going to go outside. And I actually I wasn't surprised by the death. I didn't expect it throughout the episode, but when he said, I'm going to step outside now, I kind of figured, oh, he's going to die. But I didn't think he was going to fall like that. And but it was beautifully done. And just with the backdrop of the planet. And
I'm glad Hammer got some like really good screen time in the last episode then as well, you know, as his like as science magician. You know, we were talking about that episode last week.
I am a wizard.
I'm a wizard. But I will miss Hammer. I felt like I was just getting used to him as a character, like really starting to love him. That also shows the writing power of the show is that they've made us love characters so quickly that even just in a couple episodes, we're like, what? You can't take that character away from me.
Right. They could take away Sam Kirk though. Y'all can take him right away.
Oh my goodness.
That's the one character he needs to hurry up and go to that little planet he was supposed to be on because man, I can't take him.
He was bugging me so much with his, oh, now we're going to be, at least we'll be warm when they kill us. Oh, now we're going to be bait. Like, what are you doing that's helpful here?
Nothing.
No.
Nothing.
And he did pull Spock out of the way, which was good.
I watched it again. Pike told him, who was the new lieutenant? Pike said, Sam, grab him.
Oh,
he never moved. He just stood there and watched as Spock was down there. I was like, this guy, get rid of him. And then he goes, we did it. I'm like, you did nothing. He did. I was like, I made a joke today. He went to virtual Starfleet Academy because he was on campus. No.
Yeah, he did the Zoom classes on that one.
He definitely did the virtual.
Nice. I was surprised they brought him back after the Comet episode. I figured he was done. I was like, you know, brain dead or whatever. And no, that one officer gets just kind of taken away and then killed. And that was one thing I thought was a bit shocking. We don't really talk about that character afterwards. They just kind of get dragged off, and it's used as a foil for Spock to get angry. But that's kind of about
but I mean, come on, we knew those two. Wait, when they just showed up.
Yeah, they were the red shirts. We should have seen
them. They have no
Star
red
Trek
shirts on, but they just showed up. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
The minute I saw them, I was like, well, I don't think they'll be around.
Especially you just get promoted. Like, so we invest just enough, but not as much as we had with Hemmer, but just enough.
See, now I feel like an idiot. I should have seen this coming. I should have realized we're still watching an original series era
That's
episode.
right.
Yeah.
You should know better. That's on you.
I know. All right.
Man.
We'd like to take a moment to talk about Fansets, the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network.
Fansets merchandise, as we know, is the leader in pin collectibles for Star Trek, but they offer more than that. In addition to Star Trek, you can find pins for The Big Bang Theory, Scooby-Doo, DC Comics, Batman 66, Harry Potter, and Rick and Morty.
As a listener to the show, you can receive 10% off your next order from Fansets by using the code TrekGeeks, all capital letters, at checkout. And remember that you receive free shipping in the US on orders $30 or more. Fansets. Our pins have character, and we thank Fansets for being the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network. All right, awards.
I mean, I guess this is sort of an award for the writers, but I have some awards for specific lines.
That's allowed.
Nice.
Favorite lines
sure,
are allowed.
Sure.
Yeah.
The first one is, that's not how linguistics work. My mother she's a retired linguistics professor, and my father also studied linguistics, and I grew up with a lot of linguistics. And I think that a lot of people think that linguists just speak every single language. And that's not, I mean, a lot of linguists do know many languages, but that's not what linguistics is. So when I think it was well done with Lal saying like, Uhura, do something. She was like,
that is not the way
I can't just figure out what this means. But I also really like that then Uhura did figure out what to do using a different skill. She just kind of logically said, oh wait, there's another life sign. Maybe this one's protecting the other life sign. So this is maybe an award for Hemmer, and so this is the actor, Bruce Horak, and also the writing, a couple of the lines that he had with, of course, the people you care about are going to cause you pain. It will hurt, but the love it yields will far outweigh the sorrow. That to me was also just a big piece of the whole thing with the episode, that you can't let the good in without taking a risk that it's gonna hurt sometimes. And then Uhura kind of repeats that at the funeral. Those are my, and the score. And it's Nami Malumad is the especially that scene at the end where they've got the like original Trek theme.
Yes.
With the like Uhura's communication sounds over it. That was, and with just her looking at that and thinking, I think I might find a place for myself here. Those are my awards.
Thank you, Ruthie. Yvette, do you want to go next?
So I'm also going to give an award to Hemmer because he sacrifices himself for Uhura. I love that their little friendship all through the series has gotten even closer. I just love that. Number 2 is for the Gorn for terrifying the hell out of me.
They're scary. And
also breaking into my top 5 Star Trek horror episodes at number 3.
Oh, wow.
So it comes after Impulse, Empire Nor, and now All Those That Wander. And then, of course, Spock brought the funny again. He goes, another human drinking game? Does their number have no limit?
That's what I used to ask when I worked on campus supervising resident students. I felt the same way. I used to ask that myself.
You didn't go to college?
I did, but when I had to supervise the resident students, I was like, how many of these things can you possibly come up with that then land you in the hospital? God.
I'm not even gonna, because I feel like I'm being attacked, so I'm just gonna leave that alone.
I had 2. So one, you've already both covered this, but I was going to go with Hemmer as well. So Bruce Horak. When Hemmer came on, I didn't know how I would feel about him, and I think that was intentional in the writers. He did come off as cold, but you could tell that, like, with the way that he was teasing Uhura, but it was kind of planned out with Spock, and so you could see that there was heart in there. And that inside, he's actually this big softie, even though he's kind of got this hard exterior. And then by the end, we're sold on the character. And so I was right up until the end, like you're saying, Ruthie, about that scene with him falling out of the ship. I was like, no, they're not actually doing this, are they? But they pulled it off, and the actor pulls it off, and they did such a great job. I also thought La'an does a great job in this one as well, just in terms of like that character has helped us understand why the Gorn are scary. It reminds me in a way of kind of like Gandalf in Lord of the Rings. Like, you always look to Gandalf to know how scared you should be about something, because Gandalf's like, when Gandalf is scared, you know it's like something serious is going on. And so like Lon has all this experience with the Gorn, and so you don't know what to expect, but all this time that character has been foreshadowing what's happening, but not in a way that's like, oh, I'm gonna cower, you know, and get super scared every time that they show up, which would still be justified, but instead is like, no, I'm going to go to action. Here's what we need to do. We need to like respond in this way. We need to anticipate this kind of behavior, but we still get this moment of vulnerability that comes out with that one survivor and with M'Benga. So I thought all of that came out was really good. So those would be my two that I'm going to go with for this episode. And thank you both, because you've given me a better appreciation of this episode than I had when I initially watched it.
I think you'll like it. I think you'll look at other things the next time you watch it and not just focus on what's going to happen at the end. Because there's a lot of good in this episode.
I don't like scary stuff.
It was scary.
It was scary.
Yeah,
it was they're terrifying. Just the noise, you know.
Oh, it was terrifying.
I think it was well done, the way they kind of showed it through their eyes too, and just
that part I really enjoyed. Like I said, I watched it 3 times, so the last time I watched it, I know what's going to happen, so I really was kind of really watching it, and I, like you said, they showed through their eyes. You know, there was a lot of good stuff in there, just like all of them. There's a lot of good stuff.
I mean, I don't think this, like, there hasn't been a misstep in any episode yet, and I mean, not like that. I know you didn't like, I can't remember what it's called. It had a really long title, but with the little boy. But yeah, I mean, when I think of the Trek that I watch most often, it's like, I mean, TNG and then Deep Space Nine. And in the first season, there are always like bumps and I feel like this one, they know what they're doing. None of the episodes has been like so cringy.
Right.
They're not like playing a silly game and singing a silly song. Like,
Marine.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really solid season, I think.
No code of honors here.
No.
Yeah, when Ruthie and I did that episode, we decided we basically just skipped it. We kind of just like did a quick
you know what? Now I respect you more and more. I'm glad you just skipped it.
Said we're not going to talk about it, not going to dignify it with that.
That's it. They did that on the cruise. We had a bet going because they played TNG all the time. So after everything was over, we'd be in the promenade and it would be playing and we'd be drinking and watching it. And it would go back, you know, they play every single episode and then it would go back. So we would watch Encounter at Farpoint and then we would watch the horny episode.
The gravity naked. Water.
The naked one. And then we know it's coming next. And we were like, they're going to play. I said, they're going to play it. Everybody's like, nope, they're not going to play it. I was like, I got 5 hours and they're going to play it. They didn't play it.
Nice.
Okay. Yeah.
That's great.
You know, there are some people I know who like say, well, you have to show the bad and the good. And I agree with that. But there are some things that I think, no, they do not deserve any airtime.
Thanks.
No, especially, and Ruthie, you had pointed out that even some of the actors in retrospect look at that episode and they're like, this is a terrible episode. We shouldn't have done it. It's that.
Most of them have very big opinions about that.
Next week is episode 10. It's the season finale of the first season of Strange New Worlds, Quality of Mercy. Just as Captain Pike thinks he's figured out how to escape his fate, he's visited by his future self, who shows him the consequences of his actions. Looking forward to that one.
That's a good one. We got one more to go, buddy.
Library computer, data being received.
Don't forget that you can support Discovering Trek and the Trek Geeks Podcast Network by subscribing to bonus content on Patreon. Get access to unedited audio of all our podcasts and of a lot of other perks. If you'd like to support this and the other member podcasts of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network, beam on over to patreon.com/Trek Geeks, where subscriptions start at low as $2 per month. For more great Star Trek discussion, check out the aforementioned member podcasts on the network. In addition to Discovering Trek, there is Trek Geeks, Rewind, Polytreks, 5-Year Mission, Deep Space Pride, Drawn to Trek, Infinite Trek, The Divine Treasury, Sci-Fi Sisters, Science Station 2, with the first link and the newest addition to the network, Con Pod, about Star Trek conventions. You can find all these shows and where to listen on trekgeeks.com/listen or by downloading the Trek Geeks mobile app.
Music for Discovering Trek is provided by 5 Year Mission. They're writing an original song for each episode of Star Trek. Hear more of their music at 5yearmission.net. Discovering Trek is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks podcast network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
And that was Discovering Trek Strange New Worlds Episode 9, All Those Who Wander. Thanks again to Ruthie for joining us this week. You can find both Ruthie and I on our other show, With the First Link, reviewing episodes of The Next Generation through a contemporary lens. And you can also find Yvette on The Sci-Fi Sisters, where science fiction meets Afrofuturism. Both are shows hosted here on the Trek Geeks podcast network. Trek Geeks, nobody talks Trek like we do.
Coconut.